I'm here with Sofie Ohlsson, International Coordinator for Push Sverige, Push Sweden. So lovely to have you with us here at COP29 in our studio, Sofie.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here today.
Well, you do great work at Push, of course. So maybe not everybody are familiar with what Push does. So can you please tell us a bit about that?
Yes, so we are a youth NGO that focuses on climate policy. And in our international team, we work mostly with the UNFCCC processes. So we are actually the only Swedish youth NGO who, with our own observer status at those COP meetings. So we have attended these meetings since 2015, and we follow the negotiations and report back home to the Swedish youth. We talked with the Swedish negotiators, and of course, and then we're also part of the different youth networks here that we have on the ground. Both our European network, like our NACA network that we are part of, but also the global networks of youth from all parts of the globe.
So you really have a strong connection into the COP system. It's impressive. So what would you say are the major challenges that the international system here is facing to get the voices of the youth in?
I think that we face a lot of challenges, actually. The main thing is that a lot of the negotiations are actually closed down. So parties can decide to close the negotiations. That means that we are not allowed to, we cannot follow the live streams, so we don't know what's going on in the rooms, and it's harder to talk to negotiators and make our voices heard. But there's also another challenge is the funding issues, since COP inflation is something very real. So even if COP is hosted in a more affordable country this year, prices are going up for accommodations and travel because there's such a high demand. And if we really want youth inclusion at COP, then we need to make it affordable for youth to also participate, so that we can afford to fly here, or eat here, and live here. Because if we really want to have youth included at COP, we need to make sure that all the other logistical things are also very youth inclusive.
So I understand this must be really challenging for you because it is truly expensive. Let's shift perspective from the United Nations and the UNFCCC to the EU. So what needs to happen in the EU to make it more inclusive of youth?
So in the EU, we actually have a lot of national youth delegates. So in Sweden, we have a youth delegate who attend our Swedish delegation meetings and is a voice for youths. But I think that this program needs to be included in more countries, and there's also more openness on how the youth who are not youth delegates can make their voices heard to the youth delegates. And so that is a way into the delegation, but also I see a risk at having those youth delegates. We also that they may not want to interact with us youth NGOs from the EU instead. So I believe that it's important that they, of course, have the official youth delegate, but that's not a reason to not interact with all of the other youth who are here at COP, because I think we from civic society brings a lot of other and very important perspectives.
Indeed. So Sofie, you're studying the methane fluxes in the Icelandic tundra. We have methane as a theme, the Buy More Time theme. I'm sure you're aware of it, that we have launched the hashtag just prior to the COP. So what can you tell us about what's going on in the tundra in Iceland and the tundra in general and in this region of the world?
So actually, for a long time we thought that not a lot was happening with methane uptake in the Arctic, because there has been a very large focus on methane emissions from high emission sources like thawing tundra, permafrost, and also wetlands. But in recent years we have seen that there is actually methane being taken up from Arctic's upland soil. And that means that we don't know exactly the scope of this and how it will be affected by global warming, but there is studies that's indicating that this uptake will actually increase with global warming. And even though in the global carbon budget this may not be a significant change, there's also actually very nice to have some positive news that some methane sinks are increasing with global warming.
So Sofie, the uptake, it's a sink. The tundra sort of accumulates and absorbs the methane?
Yes, actually a lot of natural methane emissions are done by microorganisms that either produce methane or break it down by oxidation. So when we say that the methane is taken up by soil, we actually mean that the microorganism in the soil takes the methane from the air and oxidize.
They feed on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, this is fascinating. So let's go back from the methane here and this connection, but back to the where we're at the COP. What suggestions would you have from the push perspective to make it work better in general? Because I mean, we do have some critique about the COP process not really getting us there in time.
Yes. So the first thing we want to see is more ambitious actions. But on a more logistical note, as I have mentioned, we need to make sure that the COP is inclusive and affordable, both for parties and youth to be involved in the process. But also to have more effective COPs, I believe that we need to look at who is invited to COPs. This year, we're actually around 4% of the people attending COP is fossil fuel lobbyists, and that number
4%.
I don't remember the exact number, but that it was around 4% with the last update that I heard today, and 4% is a huge number. And compare that to, that's a lot of people who are lobbying for us not to have a fossil fuel phase out. So either we need to bring that down, or we need to compensate and have more youth and civic society spaces here.
It's skewed, that's for sure. And when you walk in the delegation pavilions, you see some delegation pavilions that you might wonder, what are they really doing there in terms of the logos on the Say No More. It's a bit scary, actually. So what key takeaways and insights can you share from the COP so far? So
far, we have seen that this COP, we have a long way to go, especially when it comes to climate finance. We have had a lot of closed down and informal meetings. That means that the process has not been open for us observers. So, I'm sorry, what was the question again?
So what are your insights so far from the COP process?
Yeah, so my insight is that like parties want things to happen, but there's also parties who are purposely blocking topics that makes it very challenging to move forward. So my key takeaway is that we need to really speak together and collaborate. Since COP is a consensus process, like we really need to collaborate and be able to talk to each other and be open. But we are all here because we know that we need to act fast if we want to keep the 1.5 goal alive. That goal may not even be alive any longer, so it's so important that we actually come together, engage, and compromise, so we have an actual outcome of this COP.
Well, thank you very much, Sofie from Push Sweden, for joining us. And it's crucial that you are here as a youth organization, and it's crucial that your voice is being heard. So thank you very much for the work you do.
Thank you.